Some films hide their chaos behind absolute silence. No Country for Old Men arrived in 2007 as a Western thriller stripped bare. No music, no easy answers, just dust and dread. But beneath that quiet surface, the production was anything but calm. The Coen Brothers crafted one of cinema's most unsettling villains using a bizarre haircut from an old brothel photograph. Actors performed stunts that left them injured, explosions misfired, weather destroyed sets overnight, and one audition tape was so overpowered it looked like a finished film. What you're about to discover goes far beyond the moral weight of Cormac McCarthy's novel. These are the hidden stories of how terror was built frame by frame, and why the most frightening character in modern cinema almost never existed. Number 1. A villain with no backstory. The most terrifying thing about Anton Chigurh isn't what he does, it's what we never learn about him. Cormac McCarthy intentionally wrote the character without a confirmed origin, backstory, or motivation. He simply exists, like a natural disaster given human form. The Coens embraced this ambiguity completely. Building a villain with no past was a calculated risk. Audiences expect explanations, some tragic childhood that explains evil. Instead, the film offers nothing. Chigurh operates by rules only he understands, flipping coins to decide fate and hunting with mechanical precision. This absence of context makes him unpredictable and unstoppable. Years after release, psychologists ranked fictional portrayals of psychopathy. Chigurh topped the list as one of the most realistic depictions ever captured on screen. His calm detachment, lack of empathy, and rigid personal code matched clinical profiles with unsettling accuracy. The secret was simple: the less we know, the more we fear. Number 2. Bardem nearly rejected the role. The actor who would become one of cinema's most iconic villains almost turned down the part entirely. Javier Bardem didn't see himself as Anton Chigurh. He thought he lacked the physical intimidation the role required, openly admitting he disliked violent content and couldn't even drive properly in American-style vehicles. When the Coens first approached him, Bardem was genuinely confused. He later joked about feeling like the least scary man alive for such a terrifying character. The directors saw something different, an actor who could convey cold intelligence and philosophical menace rather than brute force. They refused to consider anyone else. Their persistence paid off. Bardem agreed, though his doubts lingered through preparation. That internal uncertainty actually helped shape the performance. His discomfort with violence translated into Chigurh's eerie detachment, making the character feel alien rather than merely cruel. The unlikely casting created something unforgettable. Number 3. How the bolt gun trick really worked. The captive bolt pistol became the film's signature weapon, but its on-screen presence was carefully engineered illusion. Chigurh's device was never a functional slaughterhouse tool. Production designers created completely inert prop versions for close-up shots, eliminating any risk of accidental discharge. The door-breaching scenes required practical effects rigging behind the locks themselves. Small charges created the illusion of penetration, while the distinctive hissing sound was added in post-production using pneumatic nail guns. The filmmakers deliberately chose this obscure livestock equipment because most audiences had never encountered one. That unfamiliarity amplified the horror. Viewers couldn't predict what the device would do, making every scene unpredictable. The sound design team spent weeks perfecting the compressed air blast, knowing it needed to feel industrial and wrong. The result was a weapon that felt both brutally real and nightmarishly foreign. Number 4. The brothel photo behind the haircut. One of cinema's most disturbing visual choices came from an unexpected source. Chigurh's unsettling pageboy haircut wasn't inspired by a criminal mugshot or historical villain. Instead, it came from a photograph in a Texas history book owned by Tommy Lee Jones, an image from a border town brothel showing a man with an oddly old-fashioned hairstyle. The Coens and hairstylist Paul LeBlanc immediately recognized the disturbing potential. The cut felt anachronistic and somehow wrong, suggesting someone disconnected from normal society. Bardem was less enthusiastic, famously joking that it would completely destroy his romantic prospects. His shock was understandable. The haircut transformed his entire presence, making him look simultaneously ancient and ageless. Combined with his stone-faced expression, it created an unforgettable silhouette that audiences couldn't shake. A single strange photograph from forgotten history became the blueprint for visual terror that defined modern thriller antagonists. Number 5. Opening scenes nearly removed. The film's haunting opening almost disappeared before audiences ever saw it. Early editing sessions sparked serious debates about the slow, wordless sequence establishing the Texas landscape and Sheriff Bell's weary narration. Producers worried the pacing would lose viewers immediately, arguing that modern audiences needed faster hooks. The Coens fought back hard. They insisted the silence was essential for establishing the film's tonal foundation. Those lingering shots of empty desert and deteriorating towns created the moral decay and existential dread that would permeate everything following. Without that patient setup, the violence would feel random rather than inevitable. The brothers won the argument, and the opening remained intact. That decision proved critical. The quiet beginning taught audiences how to watch the film, preparing them for a thriller built on absence rather than spectacle. Small editorial choices can reshape entire cinematic experiences. Number 6. Shootout chaos behind the scenes. The nighttime desert firefight between Moss and Chigurh pushed practical effects to their limits. This wasn't a controlled soundstage with safety protocols. It was the actual Texas wilderness with explosions, debris, cannons, and very real danger. The Coens wanted visceral realism, and they got more than expected. Some detonations fired closer than planned, sending shrapnel and dust in directions no one anticipated. Crew members scrambled for cover during takes, and actors flinched at blasts that felt genuinely life-threatening. The chaos wasn't accidental. It was deliberate filmmaking that prioritized authenticity over comfort. Every explosion had to feel unpredictable and violent. The result was a sequence that audiences could feel in their bones. The confusion, the panic, the disorientation, all of it came from real adrenaline on set. The Coens refused digital shortcuts, insisting that practical danger creates performances no green screen can match. The intensity required to make the scene work was exactly what made it unforgettable. Number 7. Why the film has almost no score. Most thrillers rely on music to build tension, but the Coens made a radical choice: remove it almost entirely. The film has no traditional score guiding emotional beats or signaling danger. Instead, silence and natural sound carry the weight. Wind, footsteps, breathing, these became the film's invisible soundtrack. Editors struggled initially with scene transitions. Without musical cues to smooth cuts or establish mood, every edit had to work harder. The sound design team stepped in, layering ambient noise with surgical precision. Distant dogs, creaking metal, the rustle of fabric, all carefully placed to create unease without obvious manipulation. The boldness paid off dramatically. Audiences couldn't predict when violence would erupt because nothing telegraphed it. The absence of score forced viewers into a state of constant alertness, never knowing what silence would break next. The Coens proved that subtracting elements can create more tension than adding them. Number 8. Sheriff Bell based on a real father. Tommy Lee Jones didn't have to search far for Sheriff Bell's emotional core. The character's weary tone, measured pauses, and quiet moral exhaustion came directly from Jones's memories of his own father. He channeled those personal recollections into every scene, giving Bell an authenticity that transcended acting technique. The softened voice, the way Bell hesitates before speaking hard truths, the sense of a man carrying decades of disappointment, all came from observation and memory. Jones rarely discusses his personal life, but he allowed those private experiences to shape one of his most vulnerable performances. The result was a character who felt lived in and real. This personal foundation gave Bell emotional weight that dialogue alone couldn't achieve. Audiences sensed something genuine beneath the performance. Even without knowing its source, the character became a portrait of fading values and moral weariness that resonated because it came from lived experience rather than imagination. Number 9. Tornadoes wrecked key sets. Mother Nature became an unexpected antagonist during production. Sudden storms in Texas and New Mexico didn't just delay filming, they destroyed expensive equipment and carefully constructed setups. Lighting towers toppled, generators flooded, and entire scenes required complete rebuilding overnight. Crews worked through the night to salvage what they could and reconstruct what they couldn't. The unpredictability strained logistics throughout production, forcing constant schedule adjustments. Insurance covered some damage, but time lost was irreplaceable. The Coens had chosen authentic locations for their raw beauty, and those locations fought back. Yet the chaos reinforced the film's themes. The landscape itself felt hostile and indifferent, mirroring the moral wasteland the characters inhabited. Weather delays forced everyone to adapt, creating a production experience as unforgiving as the story being told. Location shooting always carries risks, but few productions face them so relentlessly. Number 10. Bardem trained with a bounty hunter. Creating Chigurh's unsettling presence required more than acting. It demanded complete physical transformation. Bardem spent days working with a professional tracker, learning how predators move, observe, and wait. The The training wasn't about violence, but about patience and hyper-focused attention. Sessions covered how to enter rooms without telegraphing intent, how to maintain emotional neutrality under pressure, and how to make silence intimidating. The bounty hunter taught Bardem to move with purpose, eliminating wasted motion and creating the sense of someone operating with machine-like efficiency. Every gesture had to feel deliberate. This physical discipline became the foundation of Chigurh's terror. Bardem didn't play him as explosive or unpredictable, he played him as perfectly controlled. The training gave him tools to convey menace through stillness rather than aggression. Performance technique created a villain who frightened audiences simply by standing still. Number 11. The most overpowered audition tape. Auditions typically involve handheld cameras and bare walls, but Josh Brolin's submission was something else entirely. While working on the Grindhouse set, Robert Rodriguez and Quentin Tarantino filmed his audition using a $1 million Genesis camera. The result looked like a finished movie scene rather than a typical casting tape. The Coens received what was once described as the best-looking audition anyone had ever seen. The cinematic polish was stunning, professional lighting, film-quality composition, and production value that made other auditions look like home videos. The directors weren't expecting Hollywood's most prestigious audition tape, but that's exactly what they got. That unusual professionalism helped Brolin land the role of Llewellyn Moss. The tape demonstrated not just his acting ability, but showed him already inhabiting the character within a cinematic context. What started as a favor from filmmaker friends became one of the most memorable casting moments in Coen Brothers history. Number 12. Motel standoff filmed blind. The tense motel sequence where Moss and Chigurh hunt each other through thin walls was shot without traditional rehearsal. The Coens wanted genuine uncertainty and confusion, so actors discovered timing and movement in real time on camera. No one knew exactly when the other would move or where they'd be. This approach created authentic fear that couldn't be manufactured through multiple takes. The actors had to trust their instincts, reacting to sounds and shadows without choreographed precision. Every creak, every pause, every moment of hesitation was genuinely unpredictable because no one had mapped it out beforehand. The gamble paid off brilliantly. The scene feels claustrophobic and terrifying because the performances capture real tension. Audiences sense the authentic uncertainty. These aren't actors hitting marks. They're people genuinely trying to anticipate danger. Spontaneity became suspense in its purest form. Number 13. The coin toss took many takes. The gas station coin toss scene looks deceptively simple, but achieving its perfect rhythm required extensive repetition. Every element had to align precisely. The coin spinning through air, Chigurh's hand movement, dialogue timing, and mounting psychological tension. The difficulty wasn't in the acting, it was in the choreography of simplicity itself. The crew reset constantly to capture the exact timing the Coens envisioned. The coin had to land right, the proprietor's confusion had to build naturally, and Chigurh's cold patience had to feel absolute. Even minor variations in rhythm destroyed the scene's hypnotic menace. Technical precision became as important as performance. This meticulous approach created one of the film's most memorable moments. The scene works because every second feels calibrated for maximum discomfort. Audiences watch an ordinary transaction transform into a life or death judgment, all through perfect timing. Simplicity, it turns out, can be technically demanding. Number 14. Harrelson improvised key lines. Woody Harrelson brought unexpected energy to Carson Wells through natural improvisation. His character's relaxed charm and confident swagger created deliberate contrast with Chigurh's cold intensity. Some of Wells's most striking lines emerged spontaneously during filming, born from Harrelson's instinct for character rather than the script. The Coens encouraged this freedom because it served the story. Wells needed to feel comfortable and almost cocky, a professional who underestimates the true danger he faces. Harrelson's improvisations added layers of false confidence that made his character's fate more tragic. His ease became his downfall. This performance interplay elevated the film's tension. When Wells's casual confidence meets Chigurh's absolute certainty, the contrast creates unsettling humor amid genuine danger. Harrelson's improvisational choices gave the character life that made his inevitable encounter with Chigurh even more chilling. Great acting partnerships allow this kind of creative risk. Number 15. Blood effects look too real. The practical gore effects created by the makeup team achieved disturbing realism that genuinely unsettled the crew. The bathtub aftermath scene and various shootout wounds used layered materials and techniques that looked alarmingly authentic. Some crew members actually thought real injuries had occurred during filming. The makeup team built wounds using silicone, gelatine, and carefully colored fluids that mimicked actual trauma with medical accuracy. They studied forensic photographs and consulted with medical professionals to ensure every detail looked correct. The goal wasn't gratuitous violence, it was unflinching honesty about what bullets and weapons actually do. This commitment to realism served the film's stark vision. The violence needed to feel consequential and ugly, not stylized or cinematic. When characters get hurt, audiences had to feel the weight of that damage. Practical effects can become too convincing, blurring the line between movie magic and uncomfortable reality. Number 16. Scenes lifted word for word. The Coen Brothers rarely adapt source material with literal fidelity, making this film unusual in their filmography. Some major moments, especially Sheriff Bell's final monologue, are almost direct transcriptions from Cormac McCarthy's novel. The brothers recognized that certain passages were already perfect and needed no improvement. This literary fidelity allowed the movie to maintain McCarthy's distinctive voice. His sparse, philosophical prose translated directly to screen, without losing its weight or rhythm. The Coens understood when to step aside and let the original author's words carry scenes. Their confidence showed creative restraint. The approach paid off dramatically. Audiences familiar with the novel heard McCarthy's voice intact, while newcomers experienced his unique perspective without dilution. This word-for-word adaptation of key scenes demonstrated that the best directing choice is knowing when not to change anything. Fidelity used with purpose becomes its own creative statement. Number 17. Dawn scenes shot with natural light. Certain sequences were filmed during narrow dawn windows using only available sunlight, creating intense scheduling pressure. Crews had maybe 20 minutes of perfect light before conditions changed, and everything had to pause until the next morning. Equipment needed positioning before sunrise, actors had to be ready instantly, and every take mattered. This forced rapid setup changes and constant movement. The natural light created a bleak, honest texture impossible to replicate with artificial lighting, but the cost was relentless time pressure. There weren't second chances when the sun moved past the ideal angle. The result justified the difficulty. Those dawn scenes have an authentic quality that grounds the film's reality. The landscape looks harsh and unforgiving because it was captured honestly, without manipulation. This dedication to natural conditions under extreme time constraints demonstrated the Coens' commitment to visual truth over convenience. Number 18. Filming in real border facilities. Production shot inside an active border patrol station, creating unusual complications. Real law enforcement operations continued around the film crew, meaning actual detainees and working officers moved through the same spaces. Filming sometimes paused for legitimate security concerns, or when operations took priority over movie making. This authenticity added realism to Moss's journey that no constructed set could match. The spaces felt lived in and functional because they were. Actors performed surrounded by the actual texture of border enforcement. Institutional walls, worn furniture, and the atmosphere of a working facility under constant pressure. The choice reflected the Coens' dedication to environmental truth. Real locations carry history and weight that production design can't fully duplicate. Working around actual operations created logistical headaches, but it grounded the film in genuine spaces where real consequences unfold daily. Location authenticity affects filmmaking in ways beyond simple visuals. Number 19. Chigurh's car crash done for real. The violent crash near the film's end used real stunt driving with minimal digital enhancement. Stunt performers executed precise maneuvers to create the brutal impact that leaves Chigurh injured. The collision was carefully calculated but genuinely physical, with real vehicles hitting real obstacles at dangerous speeds. Even Bardem's limping exit from the wreckage involved practical effects rather than green screen trickery. The broken bone protruding from his arm used prosthetics, but his movement through the aftermath was performed with minimal safety net. The Coens wanted audiences to feel the weight of the impact, and CGI wouldn't deliver that visceral reality. This commitment to grounded stunt work gave the scene shocking immediacy. When metal crumples and glass shatters, it's real material being destroyed. The crash feels consequential because it was. Stunt performers risked genuine danger to create those seconds of screen time. Practical effects carry weight that digital alternatives struggle to match. Number 20. Air tank blast was overpowered. The explosion triggered by Chigurh's compressed air tank hit harder than anyone expected. Effects crews had calculated the blast radius and reinforced nearby structures accordingly, but the actual detonation exceeded their projections. Windows that should have been safe nearly shattered from the concussive force. Crews quickly reinforced other nearby structures before continuing filming. The The miscalculation could have caused serious damage or injury, but luck held. The moment's intensity on screen came directly from this unexpected power. The blast looks genuinely dangerous because it was closer to real danger than intended. This near miss highlighted how controlled sets can still harbor unpredictability. Despite planning and safety measures, explosions remain inherently chaotic. The scene benefited from the overpowered blast, giving it visceral impact that careful calculations might have softened. Real danger sneaks into even the most controlled productions. Number 21. The ending was never ambiguous. The film's conclusion confused many viewers who expected traditional narrative closure, but the Coens always knew exactly what they were doing. Sheriff Bell's final monologue was intended as the emotional resolution, not a puzzle requiring interpretation. The ending is philosophical rather than plot-driven, focusing on themes instead of tying up story threads. Audiences accustomed to climactic confrontations misread the deliberate absence of one as intentional confusion. The Coens weren't being obscure. They were following McCarthy's vision of a world where evil continues regardless of our desire for justice. Bell's dream about his father represents loss, mortality, and fading values. This thematic clarity was always present for those looking beyond plot mechanics. The brothers trusted audiences to engage with ideas rather than just outcomes. What seemed ambiguous was actually precise, a meditation on aging and the unstoppable nature of violence. The Coens' vision was philosophically clear, even when narratively unconventional. Number 22. Filming happened out of order. Scenes were shot in completely non-linear sequence, a common practice that became unusually challenging here. Actors had to manage Moss's deteriorating physical condition, Bell's growing despair, and Chigurh's relentless pursuit without the benefit of chronological progression. Emotional continuity became each performer's individual responsibility. This complicated performances significantly. Brolin might film Moss's final desperate moments before shooting earlier confident scenes. Jones had to calibrate Bell's weariness across scattered shooting days. The Coens relied heavily on their actors' ability to track internal character development independently of filming order. The mental demands were intense. Without chronological flow, performers couldn't build emotional momentum naturally. They had to manufacture precise emotional states on demand. This out-of-order production highlighted how much mental tracking film acting requires. The Coens trusted their cast to maintain character consistency across fractured timelines. Number 23. Brolin's painful stunt commitments. Physical authenticity came at real cost for Josh Brolin, who performed many of Moss's most grueling sequences himself. The limps, crawls, and injury scenes weren't left to stunt doubles. Brolin insisted on doing them personally. Some sequences aggravated old injuries, but he prioritized realism over comfort. The desert chase scenes left him bruised and exhausted. Dragging himself across rough terrain wasn't simulated. Those were real rocks, real dirt, and genuine physical strain. The bathtub scene where Moss treats his wounds required Brolin to contort painfully for extended takes. His commitment to embodying every moment of suffering shaped Moss's physical realism. This dedication elevated the character beyond typical action hero endurance. Audiences could see authentic pain and exhaustion in Brolin's performance because he genuinely experienced versions of it. The film's brutal physicality feels real because the actor refused shortcuts. Dedication under strain creates performances that resonate viscerally. Number 24. Hidden biblical structure. The film mirrors Old Testament themes of wrath, fate, and covenant throughout its structure. Scenes function as moral tests rather than simple plot beats. Characters face judgment and suffer consequences that feel biblically absolute. Even without explicit religious references, the movie operates within a framework of divine retribution. Chigurh functions as an angel of death administering fate through his coin. Moss's theft becomes original sin with cascading punishment. Bell represents the weary prophet unable to prevent disaster. These deliberate structural choices give the film mythic resonance beneath its modern surface. This biblical architecture shapes the movie's sense of inevitability. Events don't feel random, but ordained, following ancient patterns of sin and consequence. The Coens and McCarthy created a Western that operates like scripture, harsh, unforgiving, and concerned with souls. This interpretive layer adds depth for viewers seeking meaning beyond violence. Number 25. The Coens' first Oscar triumph. The film became the Coen Brothers' first major Academy Awards sweep, winning Best Picture, Best Director, Best Adapted Screenplay, and Best Supporting Actor for Bardem. Industry reactions were mixed. Some celebrated the recognition of unconventional filmmaking, while others questioned whether such a dark, difficult film deserved Hollywood's highest honors. The wins validated a career built on uncompromising artistic vision. After decades of critical praise but limited mainstream recognition, the Coens finally received establishment approval. The Oscars acknowledged that challenging audiences doesn't preclude greatness. Their acceptance speeches were characteristically brief and understated. This award's triumph cemented the film's legacy beyond critical acclaim. It proved that strange haircuts, silent tension, and philosophical endings could dominate Hollywood's biggest night. The sweep transformed the movie from Coen Brothers' curiosity into modern classic. Recognition completed the journey from creation to cultural impact. No Country for Old Men endures as a masterpiece built from silence, tension, and precise craftsmanship. Every strange detail, from a brothel photograph haircut to practical explosions that misfired, from audition tapes that looked like finished films to philosophical endings that confused audiences, contributed to a thriller that reshaped modern cinema. The film's legacy extends beyond its 4 Academy Awards. It demonstrated that mainstream audiences would embrace challenging narratives if executed with absolute conviction. Bardem's Chigurh remains the benchmark for portraying evil without explanation or redemption. If you enjoyed discovering these secrets, hit that like button and subscribe for more behind-the-scenes stories from cinema's greatest films. Which revelation surprised you most? Or did these secrets change how you see the film's quiet terror? Let us know in the comments.